Hello again in this installment of Spiritual Wisdom. I'm grateful to all of you who follow me here and to have this little community here on YouTube. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I hope you're doing well. And if you're new here, welcome. I hope you're doing well. My name is Nicholas and on my channel I talk about witchcraft, Wicca, paganism, self-love, crystals and magical properties, and I also do readings on the channel. And I talk about all matter of philosophical and spiritual topics. If you're interested in those types of things, you know what to do. Please subscribe, join this amazing community, and click the bell icon so you'll be notified each time I upload a new video. And this is a safe place if you're practicing witch, Wiccan, pagan, or whatever spiritual path you may be on, because there's no right or wrong spiritual path. And today, as I'm starting the What Is series, I spoke about what witchcraft is before, but I'm going to start the series off by explaining what witchcraft is. So, witchcraft is a beautiful, but it is a very diverse topic. It is a personal journey being a witch as well, because you could ask 13 different witches about what witchcraft is and you get 13 different answers. But in a nutshell, witchcraft is a magical practice. It's a practice that's open to all, as anyone can practice witchcraft. And that doesn't mean to say though just because anyone can practice it, but it is for everyone, because there's a wide range of different spiritual practices, belief systems out there, and one path does not fit all. But witchcraft, in a nutshell, is a magical practice. It's where an individual would study and practice magic. Also, within the word of witchcraft, as a practice in which you would also study certain spiritual practices, things like energy sensing. Now, every witch practice is different, but these types of practices, a lot of witches start out with these practices in the beginning, and then later on in the practice, as a witch, you'll continue to do these practices down the line. Things like energy sensing. In energy sensing, everything in this world is made up of energy, so it's feeling the energy of your own personal energy, the energy of spirits, the energy around you, working with, in spell work, working from the energy of plants, crystals. And then when it comes to manipulating energy, for example, if you're going to do a money spell, you might add basil, rosemary, sage. You might add citrine, green aventurine, pyrite. Now these herbs and plants are good for other things, but you're channeling their money aspect, that money energy they've got, you're channeling that aspect of them through energy sensing. You're feeling that energy of wealth, what they possess, and that energy aspect. And then the manipulation is you're adding your will and intention to the spell, to the energy you're creating. Manipulation, you're adding your will and intention, which is to bring money, and that could be to get a new job, or to get a job promotion, or for money to keep flowing in from your creative business. That might be the intention there. But things like energy sensing, energy manipulation, a lot of witches learn these things in the beginning, and then later on in your practice you're going to continue doing these things, because when we do spell work and ritual, it's very important to be able to feel energy and then be able to manipulate that energy. And then things like grounding. Before a spell we ground, taking energy from the earth, working with the energy of the earth alongside our own energy so we don't feel drained or burned out during a spell. And then after you do a spell, you will feel a bit out of sorts and all over the place. And I know from personal experience. So it's taking that energy, that excess energy, down to the earth, and the earth will recycle that energy into positive energy. And also things like centering, channeling energy, and direct holding that energy into a particular chakra, which is an energy point in your body. Things like these practices we learn as well. And a lot of us as witches, in the beginning and throughout our practice, we do things like this. Things like energy sensing, manipulation, sort of grounding, centering. We do these things. Also things like cleansing, blessing objects or space. We learn things like this as well, and we do them throughout our practice as well. And though every witch will do spells, rituals, and these go about doing these things in their own unique way, it is a magical practice, witchcraft, and it's a personal journey as well. And every witch practice is different. And there are different types of witchcraft. For example, a green witch is someone who feels a deep connection with the earth, would work with plants for their magical properties, would maybe even work with have plant allies, work with the spirits of the plants, and work with crystals as well, and the spirits of the land and animal spirits as well. And that would be primarily their focus. And then a kitchen witch, when they make food or make certain teas in the kitchen, they would add their energy and intention to the foods they're making. Now, every witch practice is different, and it is an eclectic witch, and there's a bit of everything at my practice, but the practices I do are open, and I'll explain what an open and closed practices are in later videos. But essentially, with witchcraft, that is what it is. It's a magical practice, and also it's different. It's not a religion, but you can include religion into your practice, because though it's a big kettle of fish, but I respect those who follow it. And like, you do get Catholic witches, you get Hindu, Buddhist, witches, ways practicing witches. Witches come from all walks of life, backgrounds, and you can include your religion into your magical practice and make it part of it. And that's why every witch is unique, and it is a beautiful, very diverse practice, witchcraft, and every witch is unique and diverse, and practice is different, and the craft itself, because if you look at the word witchcraft, if you remove witch, you're just left with craft. So it's a way of, witchcraft, I would say it's a way of life, and you do spiritual practices, you practice and study magic, you also you study spiritual practices, and then you also practice them as well. And it's a way of life as well for many of us who are practicing witches. It's a way of life as well, and it's a beautiful journey as well. And as always, I hope this video helps or explains. If you're a beginner witch, or you're just someone who's interested in witchcraft, I hope this video explains what witchcraft is, but it is a magical practice in a nutshell, where an individual studies and practices magic, and also an individual studies spiritual practices that they feel drawn to, and it makes sense to them, and do spiritual practices. And there'll be some practices that many of us as witches do across the board when we're beginners, and later on things like energy sensing, energy manipulation, things like grounding, centering, cleansing, blessing, even things like meditation, visualization. A lot of us do these things in the beginning, and then we do them further on. So like, there's a lot of beginner friendly, like if you're a beginner witch, there's a lot of nice beginner friendly practices out there. And a lot of the beginner friendly practices, which is just dipping your toes in, they carry you further on, because you'll be practicing some of these practices further on. Now, when it comes to divination, which is sort of telling the future, not all witches work with spirits. You don't have to work with spirits or deities. That's optional. You don't have to. You can just work with the energy of the elements, or crystal energy, your own personal energy as well. You can work with that. And there's so many ways to practice. So working with spirits or deity work is optional. It's not for every witch. And also when it comes to divination, things like tarot cards, palmistry, or even like crystal ball scrying, water ball scrying, or fire scrying, I love these practices and I do them myself, but I also understand that those types of practices are not for everyone, meaning not every person who practices witchcraft does divination, though a lot of us who are witches do divination, but not all of us. And it's just, the craft itself is so beautiful, and every witch is different and unique and practices in their own unique way as well. So as always, I hope this video sort of explains what witchcraft is, and it helps if you're a beginner, or if you've known if you're a practicing witch like me. I hope it maybe helps you see the craft from a different perspective as well. But as always, till next time, look after yourself, take care, walk your spiritual path with pride, and if you're a practicing witch like me, stay witchy. May meet again, blessed be.